Welcome to Thinking Like a Lawyer with your hosts Elie and Joe Patrice, talking about legal news and pop culture, all while thinking like a lawyer. Here on Legal Talk Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Thinking Like a Lawyer. I'm Joe Patrice from Above the Law, and we have a full house today because I'm joined, as usual, by Elie. But before I get to that, I'm going to say our guest today is frequent guest host, Kathryn Rubino from Above the Law. Hi.
Hey, friends.
And Elie.
Okay, before we do this podcast, I have a favor that I need you to do for me.
That seems unlikely.
See, here's the problem with this. I understand what you're trying to set up, but the quid pro quo would require there be something that you could give me. and other than jewel canisters or something, I don't know what you have.
I mean, this is where we are, though, right? Like, even the way that you put it, though, is something that's frustrating to me. I know you're not doing it on purpose, but like, it does
I'm
not.
Sorry, blue.
Right?
No, I don't know what your brand is. Yeah.
It doesn't require a quid pro quo for it to be wrong, right? If you are the president of the United States, if you are leaning on a country that needs us for its own defense, you don't have to spell out, I will not give you the capabilities to defend yourself unless you dig up dirt on my political... Like, you don't have to actually spell that out. Well, you can do that through innuendo and implication, which is exactly what he did.
Well, right. Well, and it's also... None of this is an actual crime. Like, there's no statute to guide by like there was in the discussion of the more technical aspects of obstruction. This is very much in a political abuse of power world, much like the Nixon impeachment was, where... You know, there are no standards to this. So when you say, oh, you don't need a quid pro quo, that's true. But it's also that you don't necessarily not need one. Like, this is all in a very murky abuse of office discussion. So when people are trying to...
I read that transcript, and I don't see murky. I don't see gray.
Well, I understand you don't. You know, and it is an abuse of power. But the issue is it's a murky world in which there's no quid pro quos required, quid pro quos not required. It's all like, this is just is this an abuse in a very general sense? I think a lot of people would suggest it is. But there's no, like, statute here where you're going, 18 USC, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to have a quid pro quo. Like, now we're into very political, uncharted. There's no real statutory guide to what's going on here.
Well, what about campaign finance? Because there are statutes governing campaign finance.
Sure.
Campaign finance violations.
Yeah. You could do it that way.
Having the attorney general, a foreign government investigate your political rivals
is an in-kind contribution of sorts.
Sounds like an in-kind contribution.
Sure. I mean, on the other hand, I'm not altogether sure it behooves the investigation to be more tied to individual statutes and regulations. Like, those sorts of election law violations are also the sort of things where the appropriate spelled out punishment for them is, well, you were a bad kid, give us $10,000, not you go to prison or lose your job kind of violations. And so that's why I don't necessarily think it even is helpful to make it statutory as opposed to a broad, this is an abuse of power
My point is that if you are the kind of person that needs a statutory hook to hang it by,
sure,
there are statutory hooks that you can hang it by.
Right.
I tend to be not a person that does not need a statutory hook. The general malaise of abuse and lack of credibility is enough for me to get there. But I am imagining a person who wants a statutory hook. There are statutory hooks in addition to the abuse of power.
Yeah. I mean, the only really successful one of these in recent memory was a very broad kind of general thing. And so I feel like we're following that plan.
Do you think that when the articles of impeachment are drawn up, which I'll state that I believe we are now on that train in an inevitable way, that the Democrats will end up voting on articles of impeachment against Donald Trump sometime before Iowa. Like, I think that is now happening.
So if you follow the actual historical time frame, if you look at say the Clinton run,
super quick.
It was I believe they passed the resolution to begin formal hearings. It was about a month or so till there were hearings. It was another month and a half, I think, until there was a formal impeachment, then it was a couple of weeks off, and then they had an impeachment trial, and then it was done. So it was about from the stage we're at, which is actually prior to, we have not yet voted to begin formal hearings. We've said we're going to vote on that.
Feels like we're going to skip that
yeah,
step.
I think that step is perfunctory at this point, but it's still, we're not technically there. From that step to the end was about 4 months or so, I think.
When these articles of impeachment run up, are you on team, this is the lawyer question, are you on team just charge the one thing? We're impeaching him for gross abuse of power because he blah, 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 with the Ukraine. Or are you on a more kind of prosecutorial, if you think about how a lawyer would do it, you charge them with everything, right? So do you think that that the Democrats should focus on the one thing that the public seems to be able to understand, this Ukraine issue?
Because it's actually much more tangible.
Or do you do, we're going to do that, we're going to do all the obstruction of justice charges from the Mueller report, we're going to do the Stormy Daniels stuff, and the hush money payments, like, do you do it all, or do you just do the one?
Yeah, I think that the doing it all is the dumbest possible solution. So it's the one that I assume, given the history of how this party operates, that's the one that I assume they'll do. But it is the dumbest possible version because those are issues. It's not like we need formal inquiries. We've had those litigated in the press for like 2 or 3 years, and despite the rantings of the Twitterverse, nobody gave a shit. So we know from polling that people really didn't care about any of that. So the idea that we would try to have an impeachment bring all that back up as though somehow talking more about it helps, I don't know what more there is to talk about than what we already have that nobody seemed to care about. Because that's where the Nixon analogy some people make breaks down. They say, oh, well, people cared more about it the longer it went. Well, sure, originally it was on like buried in the Metro section of the Post. The Russia stuff was on the front page for like 2.5 years and still nobody cared. So there's no momentum there. The Ukraine issue, to the extent it is a much more tangible and much more clear abuse, I think could very well have that sort of legs. On the other hand, it's still a dangerous move when you're already outpolling the president with multiple potential candidates.
I split the baby a little bit. I don't think that you should charge everything. I don't think you should go back into the obstruction and the Mueller report stuff, mainly because I think Mueller generally failed at his job, and I don't want to pin this to Robert Mueller anymore. I thank him for his service, and I am glad that he has exited the stage. I do think you throw in the Stormy Daniels stuff. I do think you throw in the hush money payments, because that's an actual illegal act that he committed, that we know he committed, that his lawyer is already in jail for. Yeah. So I feel like not including that just kind of goes, I mean, this is a different point, but like, if you're going to impeach the president and you're not going to include the hush money payments, then why in the fuck is Michael Cohen in jail?
Right.
Right. Because like that, like at some basic level, that is an actual known violation of law that Trump ordered.
Well, again, Cohen suggested that he didn't order it, that there was an understanding, but no one ever said anything, the way the mob works.
So I wouldn't, especially since I feel like the as I already said, the statutory hook here is going to be a campaign finance violation. I would throw both campaign finance violations into the impeachment charges.
I mean, but see, all right, I do want to get off of this quickly as soon as possible, but like from a legal perspective, which like this is not really a legal process at this point. We're in a very, in a different world that kind of quasi pretends to be legal. But from the perspective of
called the Constitution, but yes.
No, it's a
constitutional process.
It is in the Constitution, which means largely it is not a fucking legal topic in the conversations that we actually have as lawyers, right?
Wasn't disagreeing with
right,
you.
No. I wasn't meaning that as a like toward you. I was saying it more as like it's just not a fucking legal topic that we can really wrap our hands around and say this is answer A and this is answer B, and we know that because we have years of precedent and statutes or whatever. It's that murky thing that I was talking about earlier. But the reason why, to try to put saying all that, allow me to do the opposite and try to put a legal frame on it. The real problem for me throughout this whole process, and while I do think these allegations are new and fresh and potentially more interesting, I still have the exact same problem, which is to put the frame on it, a prosecutor doesn't go and get an indictment and go to court when they have a case that they know they can't get a conviction on. And because it's a waste of resources and skews the whole process and makes it harder to bring a claim later because of double jeopardy rules, which don't apply here, but still are a problem. I'm one of those folks who have always been very concerned about I can count to 67, and that is not a number that gets reached. And there, if you aren't going to get a conviction, you're potentially poking the "we just wasted everybody's time" tiger. And that's a real concern when you see that your candidates are gaining lots of traction vis-a-vis Trump, mostly not on corruption discussions, but on we have this policy we're trying to do, we have this policy we're trying to do, and now you're going to short circuit the legislative agenda for 4 to 5 months to just have a conversation that polling suggests people haven't cared about.
The legislative agenda?
I mean,
McConnell isn't bringing anything to the floor. There is no legislative agenda.
Well, right, but no, there is a House agenda. It's the fact that is not passing is distinct, because there the Democrats are able to say, we passed this thing, it went nowhere, but here's what it does and why you should care about it and why you should get people to make it happen. With the impeachment discussion, it just goes to a process that ends with Trump being able to say, see, they had a trial and I was acquitted, which seems problematic as a strategy, but,
The House passed a bill outlawing mandatory arbitration in cases involving sexual harassment, employment, racism, and some other employment disputes. And, of course, McConnell isn't going to do anything about it.
Right.
Kathryn, you talk a lot about mandatory arbitration. Can you tell our listeners all the excellent coverage and some of the excellent work that actual law students have done to fight against mandatory arbitration?
Sure. A couple of years ago, there was a controversy online that was started when a mandatory arbitration provision of an employment agreement, I believe it was Munger Tolles was the first one that came to light, was part of the associate's employment contract. And a bunch of, initially it was organized out of Harvard Law School, was originally called the Pipeline Parity Project. Now
Can we just say that again? What law school?
Yeah, yours.
Yeah.
But they're now organized as the People's Parity Project, have done a bunch of things.
So they've gotten more successful and therefore walked away from Harvard, is what you're saying.
There's lots of the organizers are still at Harvard.
Fair enough.
But it's bigger than just one law school, I think, is the point for them renaming themselves and kind of having a bigger goal here. And they have been very successful in finding out firms that have either decided not to disclose whether or not they have mandatory arbitration, or finding the actual agreements for firms that have admitted that they have mandatory arbitration, publicizing them, and protesting against them. They've organized 2 or 3, I can't remember, actual protests outside of the law firms. One was actually during a summer associate event to really kind of nail the point home that this is not great for PR. And several law firms, having been sort of the target of these campaigns, have decided to do away with the agreements as a result. It's been pretty successful overall, and certainly a moment where law students have been leading the conversation, not the other way around.
Yeah, I think it's been one of the most successful kind of law student-led protests.
I can't remember another one that was
action items. That's happened. Certainly in my lifetime.
Sure.
And now the United States Congress finally has their back. I think one of the really interesting things that's happened with mandatory arbitration is that it has gone from an issue that really only lawyers understood about. So lawyers have been arguing about this from an access to courts kind of a justice issue for quite some time. But it has gone from that kind of almost law nerdy access to courts issue, and it's really blown into what it always should have been, an issue where people understand that this is something that is used to silence people who have sexual harassment complaints, to silence people who have workplace discrimination complaints. And it's taken a long time, I think, for Democrats, for liberals, for progressives to kind of understand this issue in the larger context of society.
And I also think, as it particularly applies to the big law context, I think that there's a heightened realization that it affects not just their relationship to clients, but their relationship to law schools, right? They're always trying to recruit and get new blood in. The law firm model requires new grist for the mill every year, and they want the best and brightest every year. And if they no longer have access to certain students because of their policies, they're seeing being a very real consequence. It's very short term. It's like a 1.5 year long process, right? From when you start interviewing to when they're actually got their offers, have accepted their offers. So, it's a short term process. They can actually see the results. You can really hold a firm's feet to the fire if the law school students are engaged on a particular issue.
So we're now halfway through the show, so maybe we should
Transitioning
transition to our actual topic. So you have some...
I have the perfect story to talk to you.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to talk about it, Meow?
All right.
Shoot me.
I want to talk a little bit about Dr. Leon the lawyer cat.
Oh my god.
Dr. Leon the lawyer cat.
Dr. Leon, it's a real lawyer. It's a real cat, too. I guess more importantly. It's a real cat. So it's this stray cat in Brazil. It had taken up, it was raining really bad, like thundering and lightning for a couple of days. And
Was it raining fire?
No, just rain, just water.
Okay.
That's what cats don't like, though, is the water. Anyway, so this.
I don't think they like fire either.
That's sure.
Yeah,
okay,
but
fine.
yeah.
I'll concede that point.
Okay.
But this little cat, Leon, with the leader named Leon, had taken up residence in the Order of Attorneys of Brazil building, which is like the American Bar Association, but in Brazil. And he was like living in a little box that like people were like kind of surreptitiously feeding him for a few days, but others were complaining because there was a cat underfoot, which, I can understand.
Some people are allergic. And
maybe they're like, this seems weird. What's going on here?
There was a feral cat living there. Like, have they done anything to get the cat fixed? Let's call a spade a spade.
Amazing.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. I like it. But
that was way more work than the purr bowl.
Look, I hate everything.
It was much more tortured. That's correct.
Yeah.
Good job. But anyway, so there's this cat living basically in the law building, and people are complaining about it, and the powers that be, instead of like kicking it out or taking it to a shelter or adopting it and taking it home, which also maybe was a solution, they decided to employ the cat.
Oh my goodness.
They employed the cat, and first he was just an employee, but then they promoted him to a lawyer. So he's Dr. Leon the Avogato. He has an Instagram account too, and that's what it's called, which is a pun in Portuguese, by the way.
Yeah. For those who haven't brushed up on your Portuguese, the actual.
Which, in fairness, I didn't either. Somebody had written me
What's
that
the pun?
after. Gato means cat,
Oh.
and avocado is a lawyer. So, but spelt like the cat version.
Avocado.
That's great.
Yeah. So
Have they done the thing that people do where they put like clothes on it?
oh, of course, he has an Instagram account. I said that.
It could have just been an Instagram account, just like here's a picture of a cat. But no.
So
they,
is
Well,
Dr.
you constantly have to have new content on an Instagram account. Are you unfamiliar with the medium? Like,
Yeah. Is Dr. Leon like a litigator or transactional? Because I don't know whether he's going into court and advocating or if he's looking over clause.
I liked
this
that
is
one.
happening.
That one I liked even better.
Yeah,
This
Yeah.
is all happening.
This is like my torture of Elie for
Yeah.
a lot of things. But yeah, so actually I think he's in some nonprofit administration, because another result of Dr. Leon's new employment is that several people at the OAB have gotten together and started to create a nonprofit for other animals that are homeless, that don't have anywhere to live, that are stray on the
That's
street.
wonderful, because that's wonderful that a cat's getting into this, because usually it's dogs who do pro bono.
Oh my gosh. Do we have an ad? Do we have like an ad read to do?
Afraid not, my friend.
Keep going.
But Dr. Leon's humans representatives have said that they don't have the space or wherewithal in the building to take in all the strays, because they actually do have to do the lawyering part.
And they've got to like pass the bar and everything. Yeah.
Have they like gotten it like checked for like rabies or what? Like,
the cat is healthy. They took Dr. Leon to a vet. They did have him neutered. And yeah, they said that he doesn't meow much because his vocal cords were injured when he was a baby. But he seems really happy now, and he walks around, and his official duties are to greet people as they come into the building. They also gave him an official ID card that has his picture and name on it. It's really cute.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
It's
It's basically the opposite of all the impeachment shit that's going on.
That's for sure.
If there was like a polar opposite, that
And it
would
seems
be.
like their bar association is a lot easier to get into than ours.
Well, it's no California.
I don't have a laminated ID card.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. What?
It's super cute. They have some pictures
I
of
had an
him in
actual
like
question about
bow
this fucking cat.
ties, some with like long ties, and he has official suits that he wears too. He has lots of different outfits.
What happens? And I'm gonna try to keep Hugh towards the point of this goddamn show. Thinking like a lawyer, what happens if the cat's true owner shows up and demands, I don't know, is it repossession or repatriation of the cat to their domicile away from the bar association? What happens? Are there laws governing how long a cat has to be stray before it can be repossessed?
I'm certainly not an expert in Brazilian law. That is first of all. But I think it was pretty clear, given the length of time that the cat was staked out there and the lack of care that he appeared to have gotten before they took him to the vet, that it was in fact a stray. And it's not unusual to have strays.
And strays and feral cats are, I think a lot, especially in America, even though it's a huge issue in America even, people really underestimate how much of a cat overpopulation problem there is. There are way more cats roaming the streets as wild animals than you would possibly contemplate.
We've discussed on the show, you and I, Joe, before.
Yes.
I have a stray cat that only shows up in the wintertime, which particularly pisses me off. That we care for is too strong of a word, but like try to make sure it doesn't die in our driveway during the winter. You have previously explained, and I think you should do it again, the difference between a stray cat and a feral cat, because I think that's actually super important.
Like a stray is a domestic cat who had was domesticated to live in a home and did for some time and is now, abandoned and making it out there like a new kid in the city. A feral cat's a wild animal. It is an in fact wild animal that runs around and has never been broken. Never been broken. And those two get together and it's a
love
rom-com.
story for ages. Yeah.
So
What it is contributing more to the overpopulation problem. But
that's why they got Dr. Leon neutered.
So
exactly.
I go to the Brazilian Bar Association, and this fucking cat, claws me. Who do I sue?
Probably the Bar Association.
That's still possible. Like I can
still.
I mean, again,
because I'm
not an expert in Brazilian law.
You might be able to sue.
I'm assuming Dr. Leon does not have deep pockets.
Probably at least has the malpractice insurance, but I don't think it would fall under that. You could start a disciplinary committee hearing.
Ooh,
yeah.
Yes, if he claws me, I could get Dr. Leon disbarred.
And then, you could make a disciplinary hearing, and we could watch the fur fly.
That's all I need. I need to know that there was still some legal recourse I would have if this wild feral milk drinking motherfucker does something bad to me when I am.
You're
in
anti
Brazil.
Dr. Leon.
Look, I'm not anti.
He's super cute.
I'm not anti Dr. Leon. I am a dog person. Okay, so that I start from that position. Like I'm a dog person, which means that I think cats are generally bad. like I get why people like them, but like they're generally dangerous wild animals that kill innocent animals in and around your neighborhood. And so I don't like them. A dog, on the other hand, is not going to kill anything that's not supposed to die. And
right.
And will always be waiting for you when you come home to love you and give you respect. Cats are the opposite of
things that are supposed to die. By that he meant Michael Vick's Champion.
Oh God.
But
I hate this episode so much.
I mean, we're sorry that we did this episode to litter your day.
Just like inside baseball, guys, I wasn't even supposed to fucking be here. Like
like Dante from Clerks.
Like I was at home watching the impeachment hearings. I wasn't sure I was going to make it, so Joe and Kathryn concocted this episode, thinking that I wouldn't.
Yes, I frequently cover for you when you
thinking
decide
that I wouldn't
not to
be
come
here.
into the office.
And then I had the misfortune of actually showing up on time for the goddamn show.
Yeah, I guess for the show. Yeah,
and that is why I'm here. Are we done?
All I'm saying is I will definitely watch Walt Disney Presents Dr. Leon when it comes out.
Oh yeah.
Because that's totally going to happen, right?
It has to.
That's
It's perfect. It's perfect. I didn't even mean that one. It's even better.
Yeah. No, I see the plot, like it goes, and then there's a tough case. He's approached and the chemical company tries to buy him out, but he stands by his principles. It's basically a civil action, but with a cat.
It's really good. I'd watch it, especially if Pixar does it. I'm in.
Imes, if you would like to advertise on this show, we have a spot.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, is Imes a cat food? You guys both have cats, right?
We do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Imes is a brand of pet food. Yes.
Yeah. I know they have dog food. I don't know. That's the dog food that we use. I'm seriously, Imes. Like, I would like some free dog food at least. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Help your brother out.
Yeah.
Please say that's our show.
Yeah, I guess. I was trying to figure out a way to work a lyric from the musical Cats in, but I haven't really found a good one yet.
It's midnight, yo.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
can see by the starlight.
Yeah.
I'm all alone with my memories of how the show used to be good.
Yeah. This is easily going to be our finest episode. And we'll get the data from this, and this will turn out to be the greatest episode. But yeah, no, I think we could be done.
Yeah.
If you touch me, you'll understand what happiness was.
So you're doing that to make Joe hate this episode too?
Yeah.
He's so lucky that he did this at the end. Because if I had thought of this at the fucking beginning, that's the entire time.
But see, the joke's on you. I think this is fantastic. The fact that you have to embrace it is so great. It's
He's
the only
to
thing
deal
giving
with you
me
singing.
joy. All right. So yeah, I guess we could put a pin in this for now then. So if you're listening to the show, that's great. You should listen to the show every time. That means you should probably subscribe to it through your podcast subscription service of choice. At that place, you should also give it reviews, not just stars, but also say something about it. Talk about how much you love Dr. Leon, whatever. And all of that because it helps us move up the ranks of legal podcasts. And who doesn't want to have cats on the top of the legal podcast list? You should read Above the Law, where you can get all of this hard-hitting legal news. You should follow us on...
And stuff about cats.
Right. And you should follow us on Twitter. I'm at Joseph Patrice.
Also, mandatory arbitration in the impeachment of the President of the United States. Also, we also write about that sometimes.
Yeah.
But also Dr. Leon.
Yeah.
The lawyer cat.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I see the traffic numbers, so we should probably foreground the Dr. Leon thing. He's at Elie NYC. She's at Kathryn1. Those are all our Twitter handles. Dr. Leon has an Instagram account that I don't remember off the top of my head.
Dr._Leon_Avogato.
There you go. So if you wanted to follow the adventures of a cat in the halls of justice. Yeah, we should send him like a jabot or something, like a little cat jabot. So... do all those things. Thanks for listening. You should also listen to Kathryn's podcast, The Jabot. You should listen to all the offerings of Legal Talk Network. And I think that's everything that I usually say. If it's not, I'm sorry. I'll get you all next time.
Yeah. Check me out on Instagram.
Oh, yeah, you're on Instagram. Yeah, I am too.
Meow out. See?
Oh,
no.
yeah. No.
Yeah, sorry.
One more.
One more for the road.
Yeah. Okay. With that, we can be done. All right. Bye.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. You can also find us at AboveTheLaw.com, ATLRedline.com, iTunes, RSS, Twitter, and Facebook. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.